We'll call the Greenwood Board of Public Works and Safety to order for the February 23, 2022 meeting at 5:30 p.m. Amanda, if you give us a roll call, please.
Mr. Rutherford.
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, the minutes of the regular session of February 7, 2022 have been distributed to members of the board. Any corrections, additions, or deletions from staff? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept as presented?
I'll move that we accept the minutes. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. First substantive matter on our agenda is Laura Stinnett at 889 Cherry Tree Lane. Ms. Stinnett, are you online with us?
Yes, I'm online.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tell us what you'd like here.
I'm just wanting to put a fence in my backyard.
Okay. We have a memo prepared by our staff. Ms. Peony, is there anything other that we need to know?
No, but there are storm sewer lines running along the east property line and the south property line. So one of the conditions is that if it crosses the storm sewer line, they keep the post at least 4 feet from the center of that storm sewer. And that would be along the east property line as shown on the drawing.
Okay. Ms. Stinnett, we have a memo in front of us prepared by our Community Development Services Engineering Division that outlines 4 suggested conditions. Have you seen that memo?
Yes, I was reviewing it and I was wondering if I needed to just pull my fence back 5 feet from where I've drawn it on the plot plan to accommodate those conditions.
That would be under condition number 2, the fence be located no closer than 5 feet from the existing storm sewer. And if it does cross, at no post will be within 4 feet of the line. Do you think that's something you can comply with?
Yes. I'm not real good at reviewing the plot plan, so I wasn't sure exactly where it would go.
Okay. Paul, have you got any information you could help her with this?
Well, I guess when your fence company comes out, I'm assuming you have a fence company to do this.
Yes.
It should be easy to locate the storm sewer line. There's a storm sewer inlet out the street that it appears to run south to your back property line. And it looks like there's I'm going to assume it's an open structure with an open lid on it to take in water.
Yes.
So they should be able to go between those 2 points to know where the storm sewer line is. And then just make sure that the posts are kept as far away from the center of that storm sewer line as possible.
Okay. I will make sure they do that.
Okay. And with respect to the other conditions, do you have any problems with any of those?
No.
Any other questions for staff or for Ms. Stinnett?
I move for approval of those conditions. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Stinnett. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Next on our agenda is 1317 Fieldcrest Lane. Mr. Singh? Ms. Singh, sorry about that.
Dad's name is Gurjit Singh. I'm his daughter.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want to step up to the microphone just so we can hear you a little bit better.
Sure.
And what was your name?
My name is Mandy.
Okay.
How do you spell that?
Mandeep.
Thank you.
We already have a fence placed by previous owner. We bought this home like in July, but we want to move the fence backwards by opening our backyard area. So we have around like 20 feet, like behind the fence. So we want to move that.
So the fence is already there?
It's already there.
Correct.
We
Yeah,
just
blue
want to
line.
place it, like move it backwards to open the backyard.
Yeah, they want to, it appears they want to move it back.
They want to
now
move their existing fence. Okay. I'm with you.
7 to 10 feet, I would say.
Okay.
To the south into that drainage and utilities.
Have you seen the memo from the engineering division of our city?
I don't really understand.
Okay. they've recommended approval of your encroachment request, but they've got 3 conditions. And I just want to make sure that you understand what those are.
Yeah.
That the fence be constructed to allow for adequate drainage. And if it's ever determined by the engineering division of the city or the stormwater department of the city that a drainage issue has been created, then the property owner is responsible to correct that drainage issue at your expense. Understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if there's ever any work that needs to be done within that easement that which you've encroached upon by any of the utilities or the city, then you would be responsible for removing the fence and placing it back if you wish, again, at your expense.
Okay.
And then the last condition is that Indiana 811 is notified prior to installing the fence or reinstalling the fence so that all the buried utilities can be marked.
Okay.
Are you agreeable with all those conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
I move that we approve the request subject to those conditions. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Excuse me. Next, we're going to move to 3349 Luke's Way. Eric Prime from Van Baylor Law Firm is presenting. And since I work for Mr. Prime, I'm going to recuse myself. Mr. Rutherford, would you please take over?
All right. Tell us what you want to do, Mr. Prime, for your clients.
Yeah, thank you. For the record, Eric Prime, Van Baylor Law Firm, on behalf of William and Nancy Clark. They do reside at 3349 Luke's Way. There is a deck, as you can see, outlined in green on the right of your screen there, that is actually in place. So this is kind of asking for forgiveness after the fact. But the deck is there, and it does encroach into the 20-foot drainage utility easement running along the south side of their property. They actually filed this request a few months ago, and staff could not support the request at that time because there were concerns about the that drainage and utility easement, whether it was functioning properly. And so they contacted me. We actually pulled that request at that time and went back through the HOA to make sure that that work was performed. And in fact, it was. The developer came back out and did a substantial amount of work in that drainage area to make sure that it was drained properly. Staff had the opportunity to review that and now is supportive of this request. So as you saw in the packet that you have, staff has recommended approval at this point, and we are asking the Board of Works to make that approval. There were 4 conditions as part of the staff memo, and my clients are 100% willing to take on all 4 of those conditions.
You go to the engineer.
Yes, as Eric stated, there were some drainage concerns a few months back. And Jeff Weaver with our department, he has been out there, he's verified that that's been taken care of. And that's no longer a concern. The first condition, that's one you don't normally see, but as Eric stated, the deck is already in place. However, I don't believe a permit was ever obtained.
They filed for permits, and that's when they discovered the
Okay.
issue. So that I think they may have to refile, but they were on file.
Right.
And they'll make sure to comply with that and get permits pulled and get inspections done.
Yeah, and so the building division, when they knew they were coming to the board to get approval for the encroachment, they asked that we put that condition in so that the building division can go out and inspect the next time or after approval if it's granted. But we are okay with everything.
You have a motion.
I'll move that we approve the request subject to those 4 conditions outlined in the report.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shan.
He's good about you.
Excise me.
No,
I got another meeting. I'm late.
I don't want to do that.
Mr. McLaughlin, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, welcome, Deputy Mayor. I have actually 2 things, and I'm on the agenda for one, some point either there during the public, but my actual first request is for board to consideration approving a professional service agreement with D&B Engineering. We entered into one of these in the fall of last year. We had one of our city engineers was out quite a while of office, so we needed some help with that. We entered into an agreement. And since that time, they have been providing that service. And since actually that engineer has actually left the city, and then the actual, when I say the city engineer, Mr. Johnson, is no longer here. So we've re-engaged with DMV. They've been providing the service with 2 individuals. That rate does not change for the year 2022. And I believe they've also quoted us a price for, and I don't know the right terminology, so excuse me, I'm going to say probably maybe a more senior engineer if something would need to come up that, you know, somebody didn't have the skill level to accommodate. In negotiations with them on that, I know the hourly rate, we were able to have them reduce that hourly rate by $45 an hour. But just virtually, we are advertising for 2 engineer spots currently. I know HR has also received some applications, and we plan on interviewing the ones that we currently have to see if we feel any of those work with the city. So we're looking at this as a temporary measure moving forward.
Questions for Deputy Mayor?
I move that we approve the request for the PSA with DB Engineering and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. What's your second thing?
The second one actually came up later today. Virtually, it's a we'd like to enter into an agreement with Johnson Control Systems for this building. Johnson Controls has provided our fire service panels in every building that the city has. When we moved in here in 2014, we used the existing panel. We had to fix a couple of things that, need to be replaced. And we've had some issues with that now for about the last 8 or 9 months. And we feel it's probably time, due to the age of it, to get this actually converted to a new panel system. With this, it hasn't been reviewed yet by city legal, but I was hoping that at least if you give your preliminary approval pending review from city legal, we can at least get the parts ordered, because that's the thing. It'll take a little bit of while, probably 60 to 90 days to actually get the parts once we order them, unless they have some slow boat from China coming quickly. So just trying to move this along quicker we can. I will say the amount of this contract is $34,328.86 for the actual purchase of the panels and all the installation that's included. And the city controller can tell you which one of his accounts he would like to take that from.
Take one of our flex budgets and keep capital.
Terry, who's it set up for to sign on behalf of the city? You or the mayor?
The mayor and myself.
I would move for approval with the mayor to sign or deputy mayor.
Second.
Further discussion? And that's subject to city legal.
Subject to review by legal.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry. Mr. Duncan, good evening.
Evening.
Got a lot, folks.
Yeah. Good night. Kenny Duncan, Street Superintendent. First thing I have is a consideration of a contract for services with A1 Concrete to level sidewalk panels again. Price went to $102 per section and a water rate of $150 a day. That's, if they had to fill up twice, they just charged me one time for $150, not to exceed $40,000, and allow legal to prepare a contract.
I'm going to ask a question I should probably know the answer to. What's the water rate? What's that?
Water rate, they had to haul water in there and they had to pay for the water and they use water and concrete and it
The level.
pumps it in and levels it.
That's why I figured that I didn't want to misunderstand something. Questions for Kenny on this? This is for mayor's signature. Yes. Well, I'll move that we approve the contract with A1 Concrete as presented with the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The second one's gonna be, same thing, coming before you to get contracts and allow, the following companies to quote tree service on trees for waste management that we can't take down in ourselves. Not to exceed $12,000, and those companies would be Brown's Tree Service, Cox Tree Service, and N&S Tree Service.
I think we have a proposed contract for Browns and Cox. What was the third one? Kenny?
Brown's was the only one that signed last year. N&S turned it in, but they didn't have it, legal stuff there. And Cox was supposed to turn it in, so hopefully he'll do so this year.
I think I may just have it in the wrong folder,
Okay.
one of the other folders.
I move that we approve the request and authorize the mayor to sign. Second.
Further discussion?
Assume, or actually, it's for,
Getting,
Actually,
sending out quotes.
yeah, send out quotes.
Yeah, we could go with the lowest quote.
Right.
No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next one's same deal, getting approval to get contracts with the following companies, Best One of Indy, Palms Tire Incorporated, Taylorsville Tire Incorporated. So we can get quotes on repairing tires, for tires themselves, and a mobile tire service when we need it to come out in the field for the waste management department and the street department, not to exceed $30,000.
Who do we use now?
We've used
A
different
variety.
ones. We use state QPA when we get in state pricing, but we just had to have $4,000 worth of loader tires put on.
I would move for approval. Kenny to sign.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next one is same kind of deal, and it's to get quotes and contracts with the following companies, and it's Unistrut Midwest, MGI Incorporated, Enos Flint Incorporated, Osborne Associates Incorporated, and Stillo Products Incorporated, to get quotes on signs, sign materials, sign posts, hot tape, barrels, barricades, cones, all in that line of work, not to exceed $40,000, and get it legal to prepare a contract. And we do use state pricing on that. Like Enos has state pricing for hot tape, so if they have it, we jump on board.
Are you having this on signs?
We're showing our age.
I move that we approve the request.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We
Motion
can
passes.
call you the 3 electrical man thing. This would be the 5.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny. Have a good evening.
You-
Next, we're gonna move to Lisa. Good evening.
Good evening. Lisa Bass, Director of Human Resources. This evening, I have one job description to bring forward for consideration this evening, and that would be the position of city engineer. Evidently, in the past of job description amendments, there was the line item for certification must be a professional engineer registered in the state of Indiana. That had been removed from the previous job description. And we do need to have that in per the state of Indiana. So I am asking for consideration to add that certification back into the job description.
That's the only change.
Yes.
I move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
And the next item I have is asking for consideration of renewal for our benefits. Our plan year renews April 1. So this is for our medical, dental, vision, life insurance, short-term
Everything.
disability, everything there. Not sure how much detail you want me to go into, so I'm just gonna go through a few things, and then if you just need to stop me, go right ahead, and I'll be more than happy to go over some things. So the first thing that we are looking to do, obviously, with increase in rates with insurance providers and such, we are going to have to make a contribution amendment to the 22 plan year. So this is going to mean that our insurance premiums are going to go up for our employees. Based upon that, the city is still paying 90% of our medical, dental, and vision premiums, and then the employees will pay 10%. Obviously, with the retirees, per municipal code, we can only charge them 50% of the actual cost to the city. So based upon that actual cost, their insurance rates for premiums are going up as well. And we are also implementing a wellness program, and participation into the wellness program will give a 30% decrease in the actual premium. So either way you look at it, it's either a 30% increase based upon those new rates if you don't participate, or if you do a 30% decrease with those new rates. We are implementing an increase in the working spouse fee. That was at $20. It is going to go up to $40. We have a lot of spouses on our plan that have insurance offered through their own employer. And to try to offset some of those costs, we are going to have to increase the spousal fee for the 2022 plan year as well. Any questions so far? Okay. So with the wellness, we are going to have a period of time from October 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2022. Anyone who has had a wellness exam and specific lab work to be done, as long as they get that they want to participate and they get their documents submitted to me by having a provider sign off on those, certifying that they did have them, that will suffice. So we want to make sure that there's people who have had exams done in wellness labs within the past 6 months or what have you. We want to go ahead and incorporate that. And then move forward to have a deadline to have that done as well, to give people the option.
Lisa, is the wellness, can some of the wellness exams be done in-house?
Yes, and that is one of the main things. I spoke with Liz Brown, our nurse practitioner. I explained to her what labs we are needing to have, and for these wellness exams and such. And she'll be able to sign off on those certification forms. So it's not giving me any medical information. It's just certifying that this person qualifies for the discount on that, on their wellness.
And can they do the lab work here?
Yes, we can do that. And that's what I checked with her, just to make sure that we would have all of the proper lab tubes. Bless you. All of the proper coloring lab tubes to go with each specific that we need to run. So yes, we will be able to do that here in our wellness clinic. Anything else?
Well, maybe the elephant in the room, how great of a percentage of the increase is it?
Oh, it's a 30%. It's going to be a 30% increase on top of the premium.
Last year's premium.
So, for instance, where our single coverage was a $93 per month premium, that is going to $129.51, and that is basically 10%. The actual cost to the city for the medical, dental, and vision program is $1,295.05 per month. So if
someone opts to not participate in the wellness program, their premium will actually be $168.36 per month. So that's where that is going to be put onto the new premium.
So whatever program they enroll in, it's a 30% increase with their premium over last year.
Greg, do you remember what the increase was from the flat rate premium to this year's?
Now, I know that the overall cost was 27%, but because last year we didn't raise the employee percentage, it's a little bit greater there to make up that difference, to get it back to the 90-10 split.
What kind of comparative shopping have you done? I think, Lisa?
Well, right now, we're with Anthem, and we have been. I know that Pierre has all of our informational numbers and stuff like that. We do have several very large claims that are kind of our cost drivers, along with people that are not mitigating their own health and wellness prior to a big incident occurring. I honestly think that right now with Anthem, they're giving us kind of a deal with some of these cases that we have, whereas we may get dinged if we try to move to another carrier at this point.
And so your recommendation as HR director is to stay where we're at and just bite the bullet on the cost.
Yes.
Okay.
And the cost, I mean, the cost is to the city, but it's also to the employees
Right,
as well. So it's splitting the cost up. And we're gonna have to do that this year.
And we're continuing to take on 90% of that,
Yes,
which is, since it had that thing, and I think it's a deal, but it's still a deal.
it is, and it is. And the next part of it too is we've decided that we're not changing our benefit summary. So all of our out-of-pockets are staying the same. The premium is going to go up, yes. However, our out-of-pockets for our deductible, our co-insurance, our co-payments are not changing on our medical or our vision. Those are staying the same as well. So all of our regular out-of-pocket costs are staying the same through Anthem. We do have a Medicare secondary payer form that was included. That is just something that Anthem requires for us to do and sign off on. So that was included in your package too, just as part of our renewal. There's no fee or anything like that with it. Anthem will still continue to do our vision, so that'll be through the Blue View vision again with no out-of-pocket changes. Everything's going to remain the same there. And then here, do you want to go over any of the pharmacy changes or?
Sure. We did not change the co-pays on the pharmacy. The pharmacy is one thing where there's new drugs that come and go off pharmacy every year. So we've maintained the same discounts as we've had in the past. We've stayed under the same program. Another thing too is we are getting rebates on the most expensive drugs that your employees are taking. The total drugs spend was over $1.2 million. We get a rebate on 300,000 of that. It's very high cost drugs. So there's a little money coming back to the city. Last thing I'll say is what's really driving the cost is the major claim. It's really claims, because there was no increase in the admin fee. There was an increase in the specific reinsurance fee for the very high cost claims.
No, I just
Okay.
wanted to just go over
Oh,
those
okay.
numbers that you just read.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pierre.
Sure.
And appreciate, I know you helped us out for a long time.
It's just a word on, costs are increasing, the idea of the wellness. We have 32% of your employees have chronic conditions. So we run the analytics very carefully on the group to make sure we're getting the appropriate care for those employees, and the wellness plans
really a part of that.
Is this the first year we've had the wellness program in place? Okay.
No, we had it several years back with Advantage, but it was just like a little finger prick and a blood pressure and weight. This is actually full-blown labs, and then seeing the nurse practitioner or the physician in the clinic. Or if someone opts to utilize their own, provider, that is entirely up to them. Of course, we encourage the clinic here since it is here and there is no charge to it for our employees. So
it's more comprehensive than we've had in the past.
yes,
And
definitely.
really, the goal is to have people who don't have a primary care physician.
Give them an
Because
opportunity.
quite honestly, there's a Wall Street Journal article last Friday about wellness plans don't work. And the number one thing they said that does work is people who have primary care physicians. So you'd be surprised with having 25 claims over $50,000 in a group. Some of those people don't have primary care physicians. So that's what our goal is here, is trying to let the providers do their work and let the clinic do their work by getting that visit.
And maybe if we can mitigate some of these, unpredictable injuries earlier on, that maybe we won't have such higher claim costs. So, the next that I have would be with the standard, and that is for our dental renewal. Again, the summary has not changed. That is staying the same as it was in the past. Our renewal rates did go up slightly from this plan year to the next plan year for 2022. Our people are using our dental though, so that's a good thing. So that's why we've got a little bit of an increase in our dental premiums. People are using it, and if you think about it, or good oral health usually can mean good body health, because there are oral diseases that affect different parts of your medical health. The next form is going to be a request for group insurance amendment. This is for our EAP program. We offer 6 sessions through Employee Assistance Program for our employees. The vendor had changed at the standard that was taking care of our EAP program. And so where we weren't getting charged by the standard and their vendor that they originally had, now they're going to start charging us to utilize that system, but it's not a very large cost at all. It's like 25 cents for those that are enrolled in the long-term disability, and then 60 cents for those that are not. So, and it helps. Then the next, we will have our, this one is our group life insurance, and that stays the same at the 0.133%. We give our employees $15,000 accidental death and dismemberment life insurance policy, and that is what this is for. The police and fire, because they are public safety, the standard actually acknowledges them with doubling or tripling that $15,000 based upon their career choice. So that is something that could, depending upon the situation and what the claims people decide. So that stayed the same with no increase. Same with the standard, doing our short-term disability renewal, still $2.12 per person. Again, it's not any change at all. The last one I have is our flexible spending account. We had originally been doing the maximum, which was $2,700 a couple of years ago, because we didn't have any changes for that maximum flexible spending account. We left it at $2,700. The IRS has moved it to $2,850 as the maximum for your flexible spending account. So we're going to go ahead and increase that. The money that goes into the flexible spending account for each person is their own money coming out pre-tax dollars from their payroll. So they're basically paying the fees for their flexible spending card. The dependent care is still at $5,000. So we're going to keep with the dependent care. And then our rollover, we're gonna stay with the $500 for the next plan year. That's all I've got. Probably enough.
She's given us a lot of information. Questions for Lisa, Pierre, if necessary?
Well done, good job. Do we need the motion to approve
I think so.
all of this?
All of
or-
those, if that's the way you want to do it.
Okay.
Do it. You can do it individually. She's going to have to
No,
remind us what they
I-
individually are.
I would move to approve it all.
Those are all for the mayor's signature.
Yeah, for mayor's signature.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for your
gentlemen.
presentation. Thank you, Pierre. Keep helping us out.
All our work. All of our-
Adam,
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
we can, Adam. Good evening.
Great. Good evening. It's good to see everyone. I'm trying to see, there we go. Perfect.
There we go.
All right. So I know you've all got a copy of this in your packet. I just want to point out a few different things. So I'm not sure if that's Molly driving the presentation, but I'll just mention to
Always
advance. But
presentation.
great. Very good. All right. So we've started this back in June. We started this quarterly review. This is intended to satisfy the sufficiency reporting that's required in the municipal code for the sanitation utility. So we're doing continuous rate evaluation with regards to that. So the purpose of this report is to look at the 2021 year-end results. These are still unaudited and they are still modified cash. So we're still working through the full accrual adjustments and we'll have those later in the spring. But we wanted to provide timely results to you all as the executive body. If you'll go ahead and advance the next slide, please. So as far as looking at year-to-date results, and I do have a couple additional pieces of data that made it in this afternoon after these were sent out. If we look at the original forecast for 2021 versus year-end December 31st, 2021 results, the actual number of active accounts came in just shy of 27,000. So we just slightly exceeded our forecast. Billed usage, so this is the amount of gallons that were metered and ultimately charged to customer accounts, was 2,172,000,000. So slightly ahead of our billed usage forecast for the year. Treated flows, this is what is captured and conveyed to Citizens Energy for treatment. Actually came in slightly under our forecast in total flows of 3.5 billion gallons, which had a direct impact on the billed treatment expense. Actually came in somewhat under budget relative to our forecast, still up significantly over 2020 and 2019. Primary cause of the treatment rate is the adjustment to the agreement with Citizens Energy. So it's up to $1.4148. And 2021, it's up an additional 20-some% this year already, up to about $1.72 per thousand gallons. And it's continued to accelerate. The last number here, billed consumption, actually came in again ahead of our forecast, came in just shy of 62%. So that's been a metric that we've been watching internally for some time. It is loosely correlated to the inflow and infiltration work that the utility has been doing over time. So it's essentially the total amount of metered water that's billed versus what is treated. So as that becomes closer to 100%, it's just showing that we're recovering more from the water in the system that we're paying to treat. So next slide, please. There's a ton of information on this slide, but I would point your attention to two pieces of information. The first would be the chart on the top right. That's the monthly treatment expense billed by Citizens Energy to the Greenwood Sanitation each month. you can see that even when you compare it to precipitation and the actual treated flows, it's following in that general correlation, that general trend. It's been increasing month over month, year over year, and will continue to increase. When we look at the forecast, multi-year forecast of flows and expense that's in the table at the very bottom, you can see that our 2021 actual treatment expense came in around 5.1 million. That's anticipated to more than double between now and the end of 2025, just based on the increased treatment rates, as well as the increased flows as a result of additional development and usage in the utility. Next slide, please. Very good. So looking specifically at revenue, the gross revenue for the sanitation utility in 2021 came in at approximately $25.3 million. That was up 25% year over year. The cumulative expenses, which we'll go into more detail here in a moment, were actually down year over year 34%. Various different factors at play there, which we'll describe here in more detail. When you look at the chart on the top right, you'll see in December we had a downturn in commercial billings. We've investigated that. It's really more of a timing situation. There was a late in the calendar year bill run, a route that was run for commercial accounts that actually slipped into 2022. We confirm that is posted to the billing journal, and we'll see an uptick in that in your Q1 2022 report. We're also noticing a seasonal trend. If you look at the chart on the lower left, looking back to January 2020, that's the gross billings on primary accounts over the last 24 months. And you can see that in both Q4s of each year, there's actually a downturn in the revenue. The current theory on that is snowbird effect and essentially lower usage, lower billed usage in those months. Next slide, please. So looking at the budget to actual, we mentioned that the expenses were actually down year over year. One of the reasons is just the budget availability. So these are the accounts that in their budget status at the end of the year. So essentially, utility came under budget. There's a variety of factors. A lot of the capital procurement last year was delayed or slowed down, as I'm sure you all have seen in various other situations, which has lagged. So our reporting is on cash that's been hit as opposed to what has been necessarily incurred and encumbered. So there are capital projects that are committed to, that are in process, but may be delayed or slower than anticipated, which is causing that, as well as a variety of different budgetary accounts that actually came in under expected cost. And then the last few slides here, then I'll open it up for questions. This is just the last 2 years trend. You can see really throughout 2021, consistently, the new rates went into effect in January of 2021, and you can see steady revenue exceeded expenses every month in 2021. And then if you look at the next slide, it looks at our fund balances. So this one's looking at debt outstanding. So at the end of the year, there was just under 72.1 million in principal debt outstanding. There are no vehicle leases or capital leases outstanding. And in 2021, $2.8 million was retired of that principal. Go ahead to the next slide, please. This is our updated capital improvement plan. This is updated often. No major changes to report since the last Q3 report. The only item, there's been 2 items that have been added. One is the Craig Park infrastructure contribution was added of $95,000 to 2021's commitment. And we have been having conversations with the city officials as well as utility utility staff with regards to the planning of the treatment cost reduction program as well. So that 11 million that's programmed in 2023, conversations are actively in way to try to again mitigate and create a long-term plan to use future treatment costs. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So this is a Treasury report. It just shows the statement of cash. Apologize, that should say December 31st. At the end of the year, the cumulative cash position in the operating fund was $12.7 million in cash and $12.8 million in investments. I'm sorry, $2.8 million in investments. The required reserve is $2.46 million between cash and investments, so quite a bit above that threshold. And you can see the various different cash positions throughout the year. And again, the cash has increased because revenues have exceeded expenses, which is according to plan. And then I think we're at the last slide here. There we go. Okay. So this is, in my opinion, the most important slide, only because it's really what this entire process is for. Is we have a 5-year rate study, which is a long period of time to forecast for anybody. So we're trying to monitor that and evaluate how we're doing relative to those forecasts. So the lower left is the cash actual versus projection. So blue is actual. I'm sorry, green is actual, blue is our forecast. So you can see we exceeded in 2021 our year-end cash budget. That's being taken into consideration for future capital planning. And then the chart on the right is comparing the forecasted revenue versus forecasted expense that the current rates are set to. So in this case, we're right on track with revenue through the first year. We are lagging on the expense side, as discussed. So we anticipate continue to try to ramp that and get the capital plan back and continue on track, as well as continue to perform on the revenue side. So I know that's a ton of information to do via virtual. So I'd open it up to any questions. Otherwise, that is the 2021 report. And we'll have more information on the full accrual financials later this spring. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Questions for Adam? Don't hear any, Adam. Thank you very much for that comprehensive report.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is Meadows at Bainbridge, Section 5, Phase 2, Cheyenne Hoffa. Yeah. Ms. Hoffa, are you online? Anybody for Meadows at Bainbridge?
I guess me.
Paul, you want to talk for that?
Yes, this is south of Worsville Road, just at the intersection with Sheep Road. They've had some maintenance guarantees in place for 3 years, some a little bit longer, for dirt, storm, erosion, signs and monuments and streets. They've asked to have the maintenance guarantees released. The engineering division went out, did an inspection on all these items, found them to be acceptable. So we're recommending to the board that they acknowledge that those improvements are still in good shape and to release the maintenance guarantees for those items.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Let's go to Mike Timko, Lockhart Cadillac.
Yes, can you all hear me okay?
We can,
Yes.
Mike, thank you.
Great, thanks. Good evening, everybody. My name's Mike Timko. Yep, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Tell us what you want.
Okay, sorry.
Paul Peony's memo in front of us.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm with Kimberly Horn. I'm here on behalf of Lockhart Cadillac. We're seeking acceptance of the performance guarantees and the replat that were completed as a part of the redevelopment project for the dealership. The replat was previously approved by the board a couple years ago, but that was before the project had went on hold. So now it's coming back to life. since that time, the easement vacation process for the city had changed. So we had to modify the plat in one way, and that was just to provide a line item for us to write in the instrument numbers for the 2 easement vacations. So that's the only change that was made to the plat since it was approved a few years back. Those easement vacations are actually going to be heard for their second reading at town council this evening. So from what I understand, I think Paul had a couple conditions of approval. Him and I had spoken through those this morning, but if you don't mind reading those off to me, just so I could hear how they were written, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, Mike. One was a minor item on the plat that needed to be revised, and Mike is going to get me that first sheet of the plat. The second condition and the main condition is the performance guarantees were not on our standard form. So Lockhart and their bank are working together to get those guarantees revised and back to us. And so it's the condition is receipt of the revised performance guarantees and then review and approval of the same by the legal department and the engineering division.
Mike, are these okay with you?
That's perfect. Thanks, Paul.
I'll move for approval with that one condition, receive the revised performance guarantees, review by approval of legal and engineering.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good evening. Next,
You
let's
too.
go on to Rob Jack, Greenwood Senior Housing.
Hi, good evening. This is Rob Jack with Clover Development. I'm here for the Greenwood Senior Housing Project at 1680 Grove Crossing Boulevard. We're seeking acceptance of the performance guarantees and acceptance of the inspection and testing agreement. So
All
there's-
fair to say that you're recommending approval subject to revised performance guarantees and review and approval.
That's
by
correct.
Legal and engineering.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Rob. That's pretty easy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Anyone from the audience who wish to speak with us? Mr. Petty, you're up first.
Good evening.
Evening time.
I have two things real quick. The first is we were approached by our Pleasant Schools about purchasing new vehicles we might have available. We did have one that was already removed from service, just waiting to dispose of. Yeah, that fits their need, they are interested in. I'm requesting the approval to sell a 2014 Jeep Patriot VIN ending 652446 to the Clark Pleasant School System in the amount of $6,500.
Questions for Todd? Anything from the legal department to add on this one, Sam?
Nope.
Okay.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The second thing is just clarify, in December, the board approved purchase of 2 new Harley Davidson motorcycles for the police department with the approval to trade in 2 others. It was brought to my attention that the trade-ins are a little vague, so I just wanted to clarify on record that the 2 trade-ins, first one would be a 2009 Harley Davidson VIN ending 614594, and the second a 2011 Harley VIN ending 665786.
I'll move we approve that and insert that into the record. So it's clarified.
Second.
Second, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Todd. Have a good evening. Anyone else in the audience wish to address this, either online or in the audience? If not, we'll move on to Mr. Hodson with IDM compliance plan status update.
All's well with IDM. We have nothing to report.
Great, thank you. And your status of that?
First up is consideration of the First Amendment to the St. Francis and Clare Assisi Catholic Church agreement. This was from the CARES Act funding, and the amendment would take the amount they receive from $5,000 to $10,000.
Questions for Sam about this?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is a consideration of a purchase agreement to sell real estate on the north side of the airport that formerly was the old wheat craft hangar to a Garrett company to do a restaurant. This would be subject to approval by the FAA, which we expect would take several months, but they're bringing it before you because you're one of the steps to make the transaction happen.
Questions for Sam? Who signs this, Sam, the mayor?
Yes.
Questions for Sam?
So there's several steps involved in this.
It'll be several months before this is closed.
This is the one that we sort of saw.
Oh, yeah,
Schematics.
you've already seen the proposal for this.
I'll move,
Go ahead.
I'll move for approval, subject to be signed by the mayor.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
On your agenda, you had a consideration to purchase Qualite sporting lights for the Sportsplex. But in order to do that, we first have to have you approve or request that you approve an interlocal purchasing agreement with the interlocal purchasing system, TIPS. And that is the mechanism through which we're purchasing as opposed to going through a public bid.
Can we do that before we consider the special purchase document?
I think that you need to approve it before you,
Okay.
that we have to belong to this co-op before we can do this.
Which would be
deal.
the resolution 22-03.
Yes.
Which we have in front of us. Is
Correct.
there a motion to adopt.
I'll move for approval of resolution 2203 with the mayor to sign.
Actually, we signed it.
Yeah, the board will sign the
Yeah, we'll
resolution.
start the
The
resolution.
mayor will sign the interlocal.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at it.
I'll second that. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is the contract to actually purchase the lighting system, and this is going to be the lighting system that serves the athletic fields at the new Woodsville Road Sports Complex.
Here we have the form in front of us. I will move that we approve that joining the tips. Your second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
On your agenda, you have a easement to Bargersville Utilities. There is also an easement that needs to go to Metronet. It's the same consideration. The city has a utility easement. Bargersville needs to access that easement, and so does Metronet to serve Greenwood residents. The easement creates no burden on the city property and would be of no value to anybody but Metronet or Bargersville Utilities. So we are requesting that you approve granting Bargersville Utilities and Metronet access to our utility easement at 2250 South Honey Creek Road, subject to approval of the final document by the legal department.
Other questions for Sam? Discussion?
I move we approve.
Further discussion on those? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Is that all I have, Amanda?
The Indian American
Indian
Water.
American Water. Utility easements.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next up is the Indiana American Water Utility easement. This one, I believe this one definitely is going to require some tweaking by the legal department because it was set up for a town rather than a city. It requires a council ordinance resolution. We're not going to get council resolution. You have the power to do this since we are a city.
I'll move that we approve the utility easement subject to further review and approval by the city legal.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now I'm finished.
Oh, yeah, you have one more.
I do.
Yes, back to the top. There was confusion when I sent out the CARES Act grant documents. They were asking for an amendment to their 2020 agreement from 5 to 10. And then they were also asking for their 2022 grant approval of $10,000. So there's a second full agreement that needs to be considered.
So the 2022 is for what to what?
It would be for the year 2022,
Still-
January 1.
Still 5 to 10.
It's still, it's 10 this time.
It's 10,000 total.
Last time it was 5, we increased to 10. For 2022, it'll just be
It'll
10.
be 10.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll move we approve that.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
There's-
Now he's.
I give up. I don't know.
Yeah, now we're done with legal stuff.
Mr. Paul, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome
you.
back.
Yeah, thanks. The first item is that for the Graham Road southbound turn lane, this is for southbound Graham onto westbound Main Street. We're right where the ERMCO building is being constructed, that intersection. They're asking that the board accept the performance guarantee for the installation of the improvements associated with the construction of that southbound turn lane. The letter of credit had revisions that were needed, so we're recommending conditional approval of this performance guarantee.
I'll vote for approval of that condition.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next item, and I believe John Query and Eric Smith with HWC may be on the line.
Mr. Smith. Gentlemen, are you with us?
I am. This is Eric Smith with HWC.
So there's an east side master plan, a sanitary sewer master plan that the city would like to do. And this is for the area east of Graham Road as the development starts to expand in that area. And I'll let Eric maybe explain briefly what this plan involves.
Yes, thanks, Paul. In our discussions with the city superintendent and Paul and city engineer's office, there's been a need to develop a plan for sanitary sewer development on the east side there in the area east of I-65. That area has some existing sanitary infrastructure, but lacks some planning, and there is quite a bit of developable land in that area. As the graphic shows there, it's essentially the area east of I-65, south of County Line Road, west of Franklin Road, and north of Tracy Road. Based on the topography and potential sewer area to be served, that's the boundaries that have been identified. The master plan would essentially look at land use and topography in that area, as well as take into account potential development requests that have been made to the city, and develop a plan for extending sewers in that area to serve developable areas, and also look at the existing capacities and potential needs for expansion or extension of existing facilities. All of that area currently has a discharge point to the Citizens Energy Group's interceptor there on the north side. And the report that we would do would basically develop a plan for sewering that area and basically give the city a roadmap of how to serve that area as development occurs, with a logical sequence of sewer construction with cost estimates for installing sewers in the areas that are currently unserved.
So Eric, we have the PSA in front of us, and this is for not to exceed amount of 57.5, is that correct?
Correct.
Recommendations from,
Yes, the sanitation field office and engineering would recommend this, and this has been presented to the mayor's office also for review prior to bringing it to you.
This is just for master plans, not construction.
Right.
It's for Design.
It's just,
not
yeah,
for 57.5.
Right, that's why it's.
correct.
Well, I would move for approval.
Mayor
So
sign.
the mayor to sign.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Next, Paul, Rise.
The next three are for the operations and maintenance manuals authorizing the mayor or deputy mayor to sign them. And the first one is for the Rise Commercial District, their Greenwood Expansion 1 project over off Airport Parkway. The next one is for the Dr. Hector Family Practice, which is also off of Airport Parkway. And the third one is the Lions Head new corporate headquarters, which is the building that's being constructed just east of Interstate 65 as you're driving up towards the Bushville Road. So that's what, there's three separate ones.
Well, I'll move that we do this as a group, if you don't mind, that the Rise Commercial District, Dr. Hector Family Practice, and Lions Head new corporate headquarters, with respect to each of those, we authorize the mayor, deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf the operation going in manuals for those projects.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now on to South Tech.
Okay, South Tech, this is authorizing the mayor and deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf the sanitary sewer service special agreement for this project, South Tech Park lots 6 and 7, buildings 6 and 7. And this has to do with what's been presented to you the last few months, where sanitary sewer main is being extended by development, and it will be taken over by the city. We have to have these agreements in place prior to that construction out in the field. More project.
Pleasure of the board.
I move that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
Further discussion? Now, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And then I do have a few other items that were not on the agenda.
Okay.
The first, it was brought to you at the last meeting. It's the 2021 Railroad Grade Crossing Fund, the crossing closure that is to occur at Academy Street. The board conditionally awarded the contract to Morphe Construction at that meeting, subject to working with the finance department on where the additional $2,280 was going to be taken from. Since that meeting, the bid of Morphe's been looked at again, and there were a few items that were missing from their bid. However, they're not items that are required by state statute, but they are requirements that are needed for the project to move forward. And I don't know if you have the memo in front of you, but the first was the E-Verify affidavit. This has to be in place prior to entering into a contract with Morphe Construction. And the second is the NDOT qualification certification. They submitted their application that they had sent to NDOT, but they did not submit the actual certification. So this needs to be in place prior to any work being completed on that project by Morphe.
So do we now have the E-Verify affidavit and the certification?
That's the motion, is that you waive the requirement of the bid specifications requiring a completed E-Verify affidavit be submitted at the time of the bid, but that they need to submit it for us to review, make sure it's in order before we sign the contract with them.
Do you think it's going to be an issue with that company?
I don't
Pretty
believe so.
standard.
There were some other items in there that led you to believe that they follow those requirements, but they just did not submit that sheet.
Be nice if we could just put some concrete blocks on there.
Look real nice.
Yeah, paint them yellow.
And this is the project where we did receive $35,000 from MidDOT to do this work. Came in above that.
Tell us again what you want us to do.
Well, on here I put a motion to waive the requirement of the bid specifications requiring a completed E-Verify affidavit be submitted at time of bid. However, the E-Verify affidavit must be submitted stating that Morphe Construction Inc. complies with the E-Verify requirements prior to entering into a contract. That's the first part.
I would move that we waive the requirement as stated in the report for E-Verify.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I'll move that we waive the requirement for the NDOT qualification certification to be submitted at the time of the bid.
Second.
Further discussion?
Aye.
Thanks. I don't know how
No,
well I
thanks.
explained that.
That's, you did it right. I just didn't see the memo being there.
No, that's okay. And then the one final item. At the January 19th meeting, Nestle Water had came in to the board to have performance guarantees released and maintenance guarantees accepted. At that time, we did not have the maintenance guarantee numbers. So I'm just asking that the numbers on the memo that I prepared be put into the minutes. Those two maintenance guarantees for that project. I don't know if the motion's even needed.
You're amending your minutes, yes.
Okay. I'd move that we amend the minutes to include the dollar figures as outlined in Paul Fiona's memo February 23rd, accepting 3-year maintenance bonds in the amount of $12,979.56 and another 3-year maintenance bond in the amount of $356.40.
Second, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Greg, no pressure. Thank you.
I move for approval of the claims as presented.
Second.
Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all. Good job. We'll stand adjourned at 6:41 PM.